Hey, good morning and welcome to the Mike and the Hoss Show, powered by the Shop on the Pulse of New Hampshire. I'm Mike Danae, and alongside Charlie Hossack, we are Mike and the Hoss. How's everybody doing this morning, this lovely morning?
It's beautiful. We've had some beautiful weather this past week, nice and warm. It's feeling a little bit like summer, and I am excited. We, as teachers, Mike, our year is starting to wind down, so it's a good thing. And a little bit later today, my daughter, who handles the social media for Mike and the Hoss, will be graduating from the University of New Hampshire. So we're excited. So congratulations to Abby on your graduation. It's been 4 great years. I can't believe it kind of flew by, so fast, so much faster than high school. But congratulations. And I know that she has said, Mike, which is a good thing, and J-Dog, she will continue to do the social media for Mike and the Hoss. And as you guys know, we are on X, we are on Facebook, we are on Instagram, and we are also on TikTok. So make sure you like us and follow us. And of course, right now you're watching us probably on Facebook Live if you're not listening to us on the Pulse of New Hampshire. So I'm doing great, Mike. Really good.
Pulse of New Hampshire YouTube channel. Don't forget that.
Thank you.
Don't forget that one. Congratulations to Abby, and thank you that she's continuing to do our social media because it was a train wreck before she joined us.
Yes, definitely.
It was. You know what? Speaking of the weather and the season, what seems to be the theme this year is ticks. I don't know if you guys have enjoyed the company of ticks this year so far, but we literally had a kid walking into class today with a tick crawling down his face. I mean, they're absolutely everywhere. And I had one of this morning. And I took a shower before I went to bed to make sure I had nothing on me. And this morning I got up and there was one on my hand. So they are absolutely infesting everywhere this year. I think
we're finding them a lot. I take Doug, my dog. We go out into the woods every day. We have some trails near my house and we love it out there. But boy, when we get done walking, there's 3 or 4 ticks on him and that we have to always get off. So it's wild.
Brutal. Yeah. All right, let's get started. Mike and the Hoss is powered by the Shop, located in the heart of downtown Wolfboro, and can be found on Pulse of New Hampshire radio stations and all over the world on the Pulse of New Hampshire app. You can always catch up and listen to our previous shows on the Pulse Podcast Network, Spreaker, Audible, Amazon Music, and YouTube Live, as Dog said. The Shop has over 100 varieties of fresh baked goods, including 6 different types of bread, and our full service ice cream bar. Of course, the most famous item, the gingerbread cookie. Make sure to visit the Shop the next time you're in Wolfboro or online at yummshop.com. And while you're there, enter the discount code of Mike and the Hoss to receive 20% off a Gingy Box. I think Charlie mentioned earlier our midweek podcast of Overtime with Mike and the Hoss. You can catch on the Pulse Podcast Network, and our live stream is brought to us by the Heinz Group of Philadelphia and London. All right, our opening takes are brought to you by the Back Bay Boathouse, which I'm proud to say that I've eaten dinner there the past 2 nights because my wife has been out of the country. So awesome. I've gone there wing night and prime rib night. I don't know what tonight's going to be, but yeah, wing night and prime rib night. Awesome. The Back Bay Boathouse,
where you can enjoy delicious food and drinks right next to the lake. Don't forget to order the $5 Mike and the Hoss penalty box during happy hour, Monday through Friday from 3 to 5 p.m. I had a chance last week to go with I told everybody during the show that I was heading there with some of the retired coaches, football coaches, and we went and we had a blast. We were there for a little over 2 hours. We couldn't sit on the deck because it was raining, but boy, the deck is ready to go. So make sure you check out the Back Bay Boathouse and tell them that Mike and the Hoss sent you.
All right, Charlie, let's do yours. It's a topic that we did on our overtime broadcast, but I think it's worth revisiting because we're still not in agreement. Most people aren't in agreement about this one, and mine, we could table mine for another day.
All right. Yeah, well, let's take a look at it. So if you haven't had a chance, as Mike said, to listen to Overtime with Mike and the Hoss, we covered Major League Baseball's change. And the commissioner of Major League Baseball came out and said that essentially lifetime bans do exist for players, but once they pass away, once they die, essentially, then that ban no longer is in place. So we're talking specifically today, or we did an overtime, about Pete Rose, but it also impacts other players that have had lifetime bans. One of probably the most famous would be, other than Pete Rose, would be Shoeless Joe Jackson. People hear that all the time and remember that, especially from some of the great baseball movies that we love. That being said, so Pete Rose, and I think it's probably 2 against 1. I think that's how it is, that I am for Pete Rose being able to be placed into the Baseball Hall of Fame. That being said, I want to give a couple reasons why, but that being said, obviously it still has to happen. This is not automatic. He still has to be voted in, and it has to be, has to go through the process. This is not like he's now died, we're just going to put him in the Hall of Fame. There's still a process that needs to be followed, and who knows if he would even be placed into the Hall of Fame. All of us, we can speculate as to what will happen. But the things that he did to baseball, and I know, Mike, you're going to speak about this, is when he was a manager, he gambled for his team and against his team, which violates what is known as Rule 21 of Major League Baseball, where umpires and coaches and players can't gamble on the game. That being said, if you take a look at Pete Rose between the lines, he's the all-time hits leader. He had played for over 24 years. He was part of the Big Red Machine in Cincinnati. His accolades: the 17-time All-Star at 5 different positions, 3-time World Series champ, and NL MVP in 73, a World Series MVP in 75, and an NL Rookie of the Year way back in 1963. He was given the nickname Charlie Hustle based on his style of play. Obviously being, just someone at the time that people would look up to as to how you would want to play the game. You've probably heard the phrase "dirt dog" in baseball. I mean, he was the ultimate dirt dog. That being said, people make the argument of reasons why he doesn't belong in the Hall of Fame. I don't want to get into all the details. If you want to hear players that we mentioned before in overtime, there are several players in the Hall of Fame that had done some pretty bad things that are in the Hall of Fame that, if you looked at them kind of on the level, you would be like, gambling versus, I don't know, being in the KKK, racism, things like that. I mean, I don't know how we could kind of look at that. So there's been some precedent set by the Hall of Fame. But that being said, I think Pete Rose, obviously he's passed away. He's going to have a shot at making the Hall of Fame. I support him. I've always loved Pete Rose, and I love Pete Rose, the guy in between the lines. Dog had mentioned it on overtime. We know, sadly now we know that he wasn't necessarily a good guy. Take away the gambling, that's bad. But he also had some issues with possibly with some minors that are surfacing, that are coming out, that are out there. And obviously we don't condone or support any of that. But it's a situation where we have to ask ourselves, guys, are we going to allow people into the Hall of Fame based on what they did between the baselines, or are we then going to take a look at that, but then have to analyze everything else that they did that was not right?
Charlie, I think your comparisons are terrible, and honestly, you're comparing what people did in their personal life to Pete Rose. Wasn't a dirt dog; he was a dirt bag, and his transgressions, the reasons why he's not in the Hall of Fame, and he probably shouldn't be anyway because of the minor stuff, but when that comes out, but it's because of what he did to baseball. All those other guys, the KKK, and by no means are we condoning that at all, that didn't happen to baseball. It wasn't part of his baseball resume. And I know you're going to make the argument, well, Pete Rose, the player, is a better, person than, or, none of this has to happen with Pete Rose, the player, compared to Pete Rose, the manager. Yeah. But he's still representing baseball. And I think that when you move into the managerial roles, if you move to a general manager role, whatever, it's still part of your baseball career. It might not be as a player, but it's still part of your baseball career. So your comparisons, I'm having a tough time coming to an agreement with your comparisons, because it's not about baseball. Pete Rose is about baseball. And that's the reason why he's out. If he did something with a minor and he was already in, and his baseball resume was clean, then I mean, you don't have to celebrate him, but I still think he probably would be in, and just the way that the other guys are in. But none of them. I don't understand why it's Rule 21. I'd like to know what rules 1 through 20 are. If Rule 21 is a lifetime ban, if that's a lifetime ban, if that's nuclear, that's the lifetime ban. What in God's name is Rule 1 of baseball? I'm being facetious, but I'm also being serious. What is Rule 1? The ball is round. I don't understand what how that could go down to Rule 21 and that it's a lifetime ban. I do appreciate the clarification. I guess it's in the interpretation by Rob Manfred that lifetime means while you're alive, and that it can be relooked at when you're dead, and you don't get the celebration of being inducted if you're inducted. I said it overtime. I think there's a really good chance he's not going to get inducted. Based on the players that are out there that have commented on this, you have a few lukewarm things that say, Pete, maybe he should. His stats were good. He was a good player. But then you have some hardcore. The people that are against it are passionately against it. They are. I mean, it's real passion. And I mentioned that these livelihoods were affected, and that's how they feel about it. Whereas the people that are for it are kind of, no, you're the most passionate person for it that I've ever heard. You. I mean, there's nobody else. Everybody else is like, yeah, well, his stats kind of make it. I don't know. Maybe he should. Either way, if he goes in,
I think it'll be interesting, Mike. I mean, to your point that obviously, regardless of what you think or Dog thinks or I think, we're not going to be making the decision. So it's going to be up to the committee to decide whether or not Pete Rose makes it into the Hall of Fame. I just, part of me, Mike, and I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the Mike Dene influence on Charlie Hossack, which might be a good thing. But I feel like this happened back in '89, and if Giamatti hadn't died back then, there's a good chance that, I don't know, that this may have been lifted way back when. But that's speculation, right? But is there a point where you say he's kind of served his time? The penalty has been, it's been over 30 years, right? He's had this. He's now dead, so he's not going to have the opportunity to say, "Aha, I beat this, and I'm getting into the Hall of Fame." Is there a point where you say, "All right, you served your time, sir. You have done everything. You were banned from the Hall of Fame, and now the rule has been changed. So now we can take a look. And if you get into the Hall of Fame, is that a bad thing 40 to 45 years later?"
He was never banned from the Hall of Fame. He was banned from baseball.
Yes.
And so I think that we got to be careful about that, because unless they did caveats that says, well, we're still going to be banned from baseball. Remember, he couldn't get a job in baseball,
right?
Which is that ban. And so if you lift the ban, that means that he could have been managing the Reds in the early 2000s, which you know what I mean? So I think the ban has to be part of it.
I guess my question for you is there, like, he served his time, right? If people go to, I mean, I know this is baseball prison, but people do a crime, you go to jail, you serve your time, you're released. Is he now released because of death? Did death release him so that now people can take a look and say, do you deserve to be in the Hall of Fame?
Yes, I think so, because he can't get a job in baseball.
Okay.
But he still has to get voted in. And I think that's where it is. He can be eligible for a couple of years. And I was reading the committee, and we got to take a break. I was reading the committee, and that if he, out of the 16 votes, if he doesn't get 5, it's over.
Yeah.
He needs 5 to get to even be considered the next year.
Yeah. Right.
So I think I'm skeptical, and let baseball speak. If he's eligible, let baseball speak, and we'll go from there. But either way, it should be on the plaque that he disgraced the game, and that's where it should end. All right. We didn't even get the dog there. We're going to take a break anyway, so we'll be right back. Welcome back to Mike and the Hoss on this beautiful Saturday morning. It's time for some New Hampshire sports, brought to you by Bailey's Bubble.
Family owned and operated Bailey's Bubble in downtown Wolfboro serves the finest ice cream in the state, May through October. If you can't make it to Wolfboro for ice cream, you can still order their hot fudge, panucci, and butterscotch sauces at baileysbubble.com. My favorite is their homemade hot fudge. When placing your order, don't forget to tell them that Mike and the Hoss sent you. Finally made my first trip down to the Bubble. I got myself a brownie sundae with chocolate chip ice cream, extra hot fudge. It was so good. So make sure you head down to Bailey's Bubble in downtown Wolfboro. And most important thing, tell them Mike and the Hoss sent you.
All right. We wanted to get Dog's opinion on Pete Rose before we move on. So let us have it, Dog. Where do you stand on Pete Rose, Hall of Fame in baseball?
I don't think he gets in until I think the 2030s. I think he's going to be punished for the next few years. And then as the years go on, it's going to be, okay, we've we've had our say, because I don't think he's going to be permanently ineligible like he was when he signed the lease in 1989. Now, the problem with that lease, by the way, that 1989, he was going to be eligible for reinstatement in 1991. However, Bart Giamatti passed away, and Fay Vincent essentially was a very close confidant who ended up becoming the eventual baseball commissioner after Giamatti, and basically echoed everything Giamatti said or is going to have as a commissioner of Major League Baseball. So that closed the door for Pete Rose, and then it really, really closed the door when Bud Selig became the commissioner of baseball, because he was a close friend of Fay Vincent, who recently passed away. Fay Vincent recently passed away, not all that long ago, by the way. But it became a chain of, you're never getting in, because 1, you lied. 2, you weren't being very remorseful about it. 3, you had this chain of command of commissioners that were basically in the same monolith of Pete Rose is a great player, but he's never getting into the Baseball Hall of Fame or being reinstated while I'm commissioner. So it became a power trip, but an effective power trip for those commissioners.
So let me clarify the Veterans Committee that they pick. So if you get below 5 votes in that year, then you're off the ballot for 4 years. And then you're eligible to come back in 4 years. And if you get fewer than 5 votes that next time, you are permanently, you have no more chances. You're done. Right. So that is, so, I mean, I don't know if they have if Pete Rose's family or if anybody of his agents have a choice, because 8 names per year go on to this veterans thing and that they choose from. So this year, Dave Parker and I forget the other name. Yes. So those are the 2 that got enough votes to get in. But I don't know if you have a choice to be on it or not, because if Pete Rose's family if they were smart, they would hold off until, like Dog said, hold off until the mid-30s when things are calmed down a little bit and kind of slide them in, you know?
Yeah.
2027 was the first year of it. So if he doesn't make it, that means he's kicked to like 2031, right? 2030, 2031. Right.
Yeah. And then if he doesn't make that, it's over. Well, that's not true. Right. It's just, you can get 6 or 7 votes and still be eligible the next year. It's just that it's that 5 vote mark where if you get below 5, it's over. You only get 2 shots at it. Yeah. So it'll be interesting. I would say it's probably the most controversial veterans pick that they'd ever made, that I can remember anyway. Yeah. Whether Pete Rose gets in, because they're actually, but it's not only going to be him. Shoeless Joe Jackson now is going to be eligible too. Sure. Yeah. And by all accounts, Shoeless Joe Jackson was innocent. The other guys around him were guilty, but Shoeless Joe never took the bag. So that's going to be interesting, and that might actually box Pete Rose out.
It could. Yeah, you guys have probably seen up this whole social media with the induction ceremony sponsored by DraftKings for Pete Rose and all that.
I think that's irony.
Eddie Seacott could be the death knell, essentially, for Pete Rose ever getting in. Yeah. Not Shoeless Joe, but Eddie Seacott, one of the 1919 Black Sox pitchers.
So. Yeah.
It could be it. I bring up real quick. So we remember the Four Nations tournament, yes. And I think we were all very positive about it. That it was great for hockey. It was great TV. USA, Canada, blah blah blah. I mean, it was brought us back to basically 1980. It had that feeling. Mm-hmm. Charlie McAvoy got hurt, and he was out for the rest of the season for the Bruins. Yeah. And Bruins are mad at the Four Nations. They said he shouldn't have played in that game because he was already injured. Obviously, it's a season-ending injury that he had, and he tried to play through it because it was so important. Well, the NFL is voting to allow players for the NFL to play in flag football, and we talked about this. Flag football is going to be in the 2028 Olympics. Yeah, and they're deciding on whether they're going to allow the NFL players to play to represent their country in this flag football tournament. I think that it kind of ties into what happened with McAvoy, and I think that that's going to have an effect on whether these NFL owners vote for this, because they have tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars in some of them invested in some of these players, and are they going to want to be, on the hook for that money when the guy blows his knee out permanently, career ender, playing Croatia in some flag football game? I don't think so. I think it's going to come into effect. And Charlie McAvoy, that injury, I think, is going to have something to do with it.
What if you did this? Just an idea. What if you didn't use current NFL players? Let's use retired NFL players. Let Tom
I think that'll
Brady.
be fine.
What's
Yeah, that
that?
would be
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah, what I'm saying is like this is what they should do. I really don't want to see in the Olympics. I don't want to see Drake May. Like I just not because I'm worried about him injured. I just don't want to see him in the Olympics.
See
I'd rather
Mahomes.
see
You would see Mahomes. Mahomes would be the guy.
yeah. I don't want to see that.
I want to see him break his
I want to
shoulder
see
just reaching
yeah.
a pass back in a flag football game at SoFi Stadium.
Yeah, well, how about Tom Brady throwing to Rob Gronkowski? Like, stuff like that. These guys are going to roll over the Croatias and the Frances of the world. Like, even ex NFL players. It's not like these other countries have amazing football talent.
You can't talk to Japan that way. Yeah.
But I don't know. I think from a US perspective, a fan perspective, I'd love to see that.
Don't think it's going to be those guys. I actually think it's going to be college football players, much like in Major League Baseball.
Yeah.
They use, essentially, I think it's going to come to that. I don't think it's going to be Tom Brady or Gronk. I don't think it'll be previous NFL players. I think it'll be college players that maybe didn't make the NFL, but are good enough, though, to play flag football.
But the owners are voting whether to allow the NFL players. And if the NFL players are allowed to, they're going to jump at this. The marketing, you're going to have a team of 5 or 6 NFL players playing in this flag football game, or 7 or 8. It's not going to be 52. I mean, they're going to be front and center. They're going to be playing without a helmet on. And for the first time in their career, they're going to be able to put their face on, and their marketing agents are going to be salivating over the opportunities to have these guys running up and down the field, and they're going to take advantage of it if that gets voted in. I just don't see that happening. I think the McAvoy thing was an example of what can happen when you let these players play in these international tournaments that have no tie to the NHL or the NFL, and the potential of injury is huge. I mean, you can make the argument that the Bruins didn't make the playoffs because of the McAvoy injury. That probably made the difference in them getting in or out. And so now you're talking, those home playoff dates that the Jacobs gave up the money for, and everything else that came with it. Coaches lost their jobs. I don't see it happening. I don't see them saying yes, unless the NFL Players Union really, really twists arms on this. But there's too much at stake. Do you remember the Patriots rookie running back? I thought his last name was Edwards, but I'm not positive. That he played in the Pro Bowl. What was it?
Jonathan Edwards.
Yes.
Jonathan Edwards blew out his knee. Great freshman year. Great rookie season. Ran for over 1,000 yards. The Patriots were really excited about it. It was back in like 97, 98. He was
our next Curtis Martin, because Curtis Martin went to the Jets. So he became the next Curtis Martin until he wasn't.
And so he blew out his knee, and they played flag football on the beach, which if you ever run on the beach, you can see why that would be an issue. But his knee was pointed in one direction. His body was pointed in the other direction. It was really gruesome. And he never really played again. I mean, he tried to, but he was never the same. And so his career was over. Also, now, he was a rookie, so the Patriots' investment wasn't that great. Hopefully he had insurance. But this poor guy's career, which was promising at the time, and they were paying running backs back then. Yeah. It was just like that, playing in one of these exhibition games.
Yeah, I like what Dog said about the college, because thinking about like NIL and potential college players that are potentially trying to make a name for themselves are going to go to the NFL. I could get really excited about that. Or like, oh gosh, this quarterback or this receiver, and he's going to be drafted by whatever NFL team, or potentially go to that team. I think that would be awesome, because those players have the talent, and they're still, I guess I'm going to say this word, amateur, even though they're getting paid, but whatever, we'll still call them amateurs. I think that would be exciting. And the only other excitement, as I said before, if you went with retired NFL players, I also think that could be a lot of fun from a fan perspective. So
for that to happen, they have to vote no. And don't underestimate the importance to having their helmets off for their marketing. Nobody knows what these guys look like. You know what I mean? They don't. In baseball, but look, even in hockey, you can see the face. In football, you don't see that, and you don't think that Shedeur Sanders is going to want to pull his helmet off and run around the field. And I mean, he's Dion. Remember, he's Dion, and so they're going to want that attention, and to have that helmet off and to do their dances with their face on, and their marketing agents and their PR guys and their publicists and so on are going to be snapping 1,000 pictures, and their Instagrams are going to be going crazy. This is a big deal for them financially, and they're going to want to have the opportunity for it.
Yeah, agreed.
So, we got about a minute before the break. I was going to touch upon the PGA Championship. I know that it's ongoing. Not a lot of really big leaders on the leaderboard at this point. This morning is a couple guys, but the comment I wanted to make, and I was going to do this as an opening take, isn't it all about DeChambeau and McIlroy now, Rory McIlroy and Bryson DeChambeau after the Masters thing? Isn't this what golf? I mean, golf already had the live thing going on, but now you have the hero and the villain coming at it with the villain saying that he didn't talk to me during the Masters round, and then you got the hero who finally broke through in one of the most dramatic Masters at the end that we can remember, and now they're teeing off. What a mistake it was for the PGA not to pair them together for the first 2 days.
Agreed.
What an absolute blunder. I mean,
it's an opportunity.
Oh my God! Everybody and their brother would have been watching this. I would have tuned in. I was watching a little bit in here on the computer.
This would have been. I mean, this would have gotten the non-golf fan excited. People would be like, because everybody would have been talking about it, and people that didn't watch golf would all of a sudden start watching golf, and maybe you get some new fans.
This would have been the Woods Mickelson kind of a thing. It had it. They had it right there, and they didn't take advantage of it. And whoever puts the pairings together, they need to get replaced, because that golf doesn't get these opportunities anymore. They don't get those served up on a silver platter like this. And they're playing in threesomes in the first 2 days. I would have sent them out in twosomes, and I would have just focused the camera on them for the full 2 days and not worry about anybody else, and then tune in on Saturday or Sunday when everybody else is playing. But that's the missed opportunity, not just for the PGA, but for LIV also. They had their opportunity too. All right, we'll be right back. All right, welcome back to Mike and the Hoss. No trivia this week, but we do have a poll question from last week and from this week, because the WNBA is starting, and I know Dog's really excited about it. We're going to go real deep on the WNBA next week on next week's show. So we're going to preview everything that's going on, talk about Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, and all the other, Paige Becker. So there's all kinds of angles that we could take. So we'll do that next week. So our poll question this week and last week, Dog?
Okay, last week it was, will Rafael Devers play first base for the Boston Red Sox? And on X, it was 66.7% saying yes, 33.3% saying no. On Facebook at the Pulse of NH, it was 80% yes, 20% no.
That was pretty close to each other. It's weird. The demographic of Facebook and X, are different. They give you different opinions. So.
Much.
I sure do.
How about this week, Doug?
This week with the WNBA starting, as you mentioned, the aforementioned with Paige Beckers and, the Dallas Wings. And also you've got the Golden State Valkyries coming into the WNBA as an expansion franchise. Are you more or less interested in the WNBA season than last season? More or less? Not yes or no, more or less. That's on X and on Facebook.
Mixing it up.
Or less. I like that.
So
they still missed. Just one quick thing. They missed. They should have listened to Mike and the Hoss and the Valkyries. I mean, honestly, what they need to do is rebrand the WNBA and call them after their the Celtics, the women's Celtics or something, because these names are silly. The whole thing's ridiculous. But whatever. We'll get in more into that next week.
I think of Valkyrie. I think of the Tom Cruise movie when he was trying to assassinate Hitler. That's. I mean,
they're basing the Valkyries on one of the Tessa Thompson's character in one of the Marvel movies. She was called Valkyrie, so I think they're kind of, and she became kind of it's female empowerment. So she essentially was able, they were able to get a franchise in the San Francisco area, and that's where they kind of got it from. So Valkyries are powerful women, I guess. So
how about we should have a NBA team, Rosie the Riveters. That's what I want. So
I'm with you, Charlie. I think your idea. The San Francisco team should be the Lady Warriors and the Lady Knicks and on down the line. I think that would have tied in better. All right, you texted me last night and you thought, well, let's do the most hated villains, the villains of the sports world, most disliked athletes.
Yes.
And at first, I'll be honest, I was a little lukewarm on it, but I was like, all right, let's spin this into Mount Rushmore. And then I started thinking, and holy crap, that's all I thought about for the last 24 hours was, who I hated, because there's so many of them. I had a more difficult time picking my 4 doing this than I did of great baseball players or quarterbacks or whatever the other Mount
Yeah.
Rushmores that we've done. So much so that I have to talk about my honorable mentions afterwards because I don't want to
That's fine.
forget them. I got to slam these guys. So, how do you want to do it?
We can each let's just like we normally do it for Mount Rushmore. We can, if you want to do commentary on the player, that's fine. Just go around and each person names one, and we may share one, and that's fine.
All right, I'm going to go first, and I'm going to go number one, Mr. Aaron Rodgers, who continues to be a douchebag every chance he gets, and he again is doing it in this offseason, not really committing, waiting for somebody to come and beg him to come and play. He's doing it once again. He's been doing it for the last 10 years. I was struggling with him and Brett Favre, because the whole retirement drama with Brett Favre really bothered me, and I think he was so overrated as a quarterback. I think Aaron Rodgers is a good quarterback. I think he throws the ball well, runs well, and he's pretty smart, but he's still a douchebag. And so number one on my list is Aaron Rodgers.
Aaron Rodgers. I have a hard time with it because you're right. Aaron Rodgers is a good quarterback, and Brett Favre was, as I thought so too. But I get it, Mike, what he's doing. And I wonder, let me ask you, do you think will Rodgers find a home in the NFL this season?
Yeah, somebody's going to get hurt, and then he's going to come in on his white horse and try to save the franchise, and they're going to go 1-17, 1-16.
All right. Well, of course, I have 4, like we all do, but I haven't ranked them 1, 2, 3, 4. They're just on Mount Rushmore. So my first person that I want to mention is Lance Armstrong. I mean, I was such a Lance Armstrong fan, battling cancer. The guy was an amazing cyclist. And then you found out about the PEDs, and it just went, I'm sure you guys have seen the documentary and the plural documentaries. And I just Lance Armstrong, because I just wanted to be, a fan. And I was for so long. And then it just all fell apart with the whole PED, and just so disappointed. So Lance Armstrong, you are on my Mount Rushmore.
Probably in the fastest fall of athletes in the history of sports would be Lance Armstrong. He was just erased from memory as far as because I with you, Charlie, he was a hero to so many, and it was so disappointing.
Yeah.
Dog?
It's not an athlete, it's an authority figure. Roger Goodell. There's a reason why they call him Dictator Goodell. You got to say more?
Tough to complain with that one. Yeah. All right, this one I might surprise you. I'm going with Hope Solo, the goaltender for the United States soccer team in the mid 2000s, 2010 to 2016 or so. So awful to the rest of her teammates, so awful to the opponent. Just was so into herself and put herself ahead of the teammates, and I just could not get on board with her, and she was one of my most disliked athletes.
Interesting. And she was part of the whole trying to get equal pay to the men, correct? That was part of her thing.
Yeah, Megan Rapinoe was really the one behind that.
Yeah.
But she was part of it. She was I just disliked her.
Okay. So my second person I'm put down as Michael Vick. Michael Vick. Not a bad quarterback, but the whole dog thing, and I'm a dog guy, and just that whole, it's kind of funny. I'm going to talk about gambling, but I do support Pete Rose. But the whole gambling and the dog stuff, and just, I don't know. He's a bad dude. So Michael Vick has earned a place on my Mount Rushmore.
All right. Dog?
Albert Bell, a blast from the past of the 1990s for Cleveland, where he was just combative. He would destroy equipment in Cleveland. He would do it on the road. He would get into arguments with teammates on and off the field. And just overall, that's why he didn't get the 1995 American League MVP. Mo Vaughn of the Boston Red Sox got it. Albert Bell was historically having this historic tear in 140 games. It was almost like he's going to get this MVP. And no, he did not get the AL MVP. In fact, the Cleveland player has not gotten the American League MVP since, I think, the 1950s.
Wow. So Albert Bell, I do remember him, Doug. Yep. Yeah,
can't argue with that. We're going to have to speed this up a little bit. Angel Reese is my next one. I'm going to go current. I think what Angel Reese has done for the women's basketball against Caitlin Clark to make it about herself as often as possible when she is not a very good basketball player. I mean, there's kids at the middle school here that make a better layup than she does. So to think of, again, most disliked Angel Reese. It's just every time she opens her mouth, I want her to shut up. It's not about you. The success of the WNBA last year was not about you. It was about Caitlin Clark and only Caitlin Clark. So, maybe this year's better, but even her refusal to play on the Olympic team, if she's on there, just stop.
Yeah. And Mike, so it was kind of funny because when I put mine and then I realized you had Angel Reese. I have Angel Reese as well, and I'm thinking how could she even think she's even good enough to play on the Olympic team? And it's just ridiculous. But you're right. She wants to turn this thing into the the magic bird thing, whatever. This look at me. I'm so good. It's all about me. You're right. Angel Reese, cannot stand her. I hope she has a very unsuccessful WNBA season.
Dog.
Which is funny because both the Sky take on the Fever today, to kick off the 2025 WNBA season. It's those two again. I'm going to say Don King. Hey, he ruined the sport of boxing. Only in America, you ruined the sport of boxing. Great hair, but you ruined the sport of boxing.
Yeah, he was another one. Every time he opened his mouth, I wanted to turn off the TV because it was on regular TV then. There was no internet. There was none when Don King was rolling, and
Right.
He was a showman, that's for sure. My last one that I put on here, then I want to do my honorable mentions, is Jay Cutler. Jay Cutler, boy, that face, and his press conferences after loads of talent. Jay Cutler was dripping with quarterback talent and arm talent, but what just a bad teammate, bad human being, and never owned anything. And so I just liked him.
All right. My last person would be Floyd Mayweather, boxer. He was 50-0, never lost. He's just a jerk. He was like, he gave disrespect to his opponent before, after. It didn't matter. Floyd Mayweather was just something about him. I mean, he was a heck of a boxer, but just a dude that you didn't want to interact with. You didn't want to be around. And the fact that even after beating up his opponents, he's kind of still stuck it to them and was just, I don't know, just a bad dude. Dog, who's your four?
Just admit you hate the year 1983 because you had Rogers and Cutler, and both of those guys were born in the greatest year of all time, 1983. Just admit you hate the year 1983, Mike, and we'll call it even. Donald Sterling. How do you get banned in the NBA? Well, when you do stuff that he did, that's how you violate the Constitution of the NBA. That's the first time, Adam Silver, that I had heard Constitution and NBA all rolled into one. Well, the NBA Constitution, or the Constitution of the NBA, got the former Clippers owner ousted, and Steve Ballmer came in with Mr. Excitement and bought the team, and the team is in much better shape from a public relations standpoint, and I think down the line in the future as a basketball franchise.
That's their equivalent of Rule 21. The Constitution of the WNBA. My honorable mention: Ryan Lockett, or the swimmer Ryan Lockett, whatever that line that he did. Nick Cray, I'm just pronounce this wrong. Kyrgios, the tennis player. You ever watch a match? You only need to watch one match. If you watch him play. The argument, the whining, the yelling, forget about it. Terrell Owens, Brett Favre, and A-Rod. Those are my honorable mentions.
There you go. I don't have honorable mentions, but A-Rod would be one of them. Okay,
we'll be right back. All right, welcome back for more Mike and the Hoss. We got to mention the Red Sox and the Braves tonight. Rivalry weekend, as Doug just told us. 6:15 pregame, 7:15 first pitch. They're struggling. Red Sox are struggling. We're going to talk a little bit more about them next week when we have more time. We're also going to talk about the Celtics, and I know people are eager to hear us talk about the Celtics, but we're going to dedicate a lot more time next week to the Celtics and also overtime with Mike and the Hoss, which you probably can catch somewhere around Wednesday this week. Really get into the Celtics, the Tatum injury, and everything that's involved with that and where they're at as far as the playoffs go. The big news is that the NFL released a schedule for the Patriots. And again, the NFL has the market cornered on news dumps, and they do it all the time. And so whenever you're ready to forget about the NFL, they bring something and they release the schedule. And I know it's early, but we usually do this, Charlie. We do an early win-loss for the Patriots. And so are you ready? Dog, you want in on this?
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. So the Pats are opening up at home against the Las Vegas Raiders. Las Vegas Raiders. Charlie.
The Patriots are going to win their home opener.
Win. Dog.
Win.
And I got a win on that one too. All right. So the next one is at Miami. That's going to be a hot one. Charlie?
It's going to be a hot one, temperature-wise or excitement-wise. They're traveling down to Miami. It's going to be hot and humid, but the Patriots are going to be 2-0.
Dog?
They lose this one, but they win. They're gonna do what they used to do: lose against Miami in Miami, and then win again win hosting Miami.
Okay, I got a loss on that one. Pittsburgh Steelers home week 3. Charlie?
The Patriots are going to lose. First loss.
Dog?
Lose.
I got a win.
Jeez, really?
Carolina Panthers.
It's a win.
That's home also.
Yeah.
Win. Dog?
Win.
And I got a win there too. All right. Primetime. They have 3 primetime games this year. At Buffalo Bills.
Well, I think this is a game we're going to go to, Mike. I think this was what our plan was, to head out to Buffalo to see this Sunday night game. That would be fun.
Okay.
The Patriots are not going to beat the Bills. It'll be a loss.
Dog?
Loss.
Yeah, I got a loss there too. The New Orleans Saints following week at New Orleans.
Yeah, they're going to rebound here, and they're actually going to end up beating the Saints at New Orleans.
Doug?
Win.
Yeah, I got a win too. At the Tennessee Titans, Charlie?
Ooh, it's going to be tough. I mean, Tennessee, I'm going to go with the Patriots are not. It's going to be close, but they're going to lose.
Dog?
Revenge game for Mike Vrabel. Win.
Yeah, I got a win there too. Cleveland Browns against who knows who's the quarterback of Cleveland then? Who knows?
Yeah, who knows? But you know what? It's not going to matter because the Browns are going to lose to the Patriots.
Dog?
They're going to win this game because I'm going to the Packers Browns game in September to watch the Packers and J-Dog Bowl 11 win that game in Cleveland too. But the Patriots will beat the Browns.
I have a win on that one. Atlanta Falcons.
Ooh, yeah, the Patriots are going to lose to the Falcons.
Dog?
Loss.
I got a loss. The Buccaneers.
Well, Mike, you do worry about the weather. It's going to be hot and humid down in Tampa. But you know what? The Patriots are going to beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Dog?
Loss.
I got a loss. New York Jets.
The Jets.
Home.
So this is the first game at home. So the Patriots are going to beat the Jets at home.
Dog?
This is a Thursday night game. Prime time. Patriots win.
I got a win there too. Cincinnati Bengals. At
Ooh.
Cincinnati Bengals.
Yeah, I don't think the Pats have a shot in this game. I think the Bengals walk all over them.
Dog?
Like last year where the Patriots shocked the Bengals and needed one of those wins they ended up missing the playoffs. Cincinnati did. I think they're going to exact a little revenge a year later. So I think the Pats will lose this game.
I have a loss too. Bengals can't start the season. The Pats caught them, lucky at the beginning of the year last year. They play much better as the year goes on. The New York Giants, home.
This is a home
Another
game.
primetime game. Another primetime game.
Yeah, I think primetime game, Drake May. I don't know. I'm feeling good about this. Patriots beat the Giants.
Dog?
Win.
I got a win there. The bye week and then Buffalo Bills at home.
Ooh, this is interesting because you've had the bye week. You'll be able to make adjustments. Buffalo comes in Sunday, December 14th. It probably still matters, the game. So, gosh, I mean, I had the Patriots losing at Buffalo. I'm going to take the Patriots winning in overtime.
Dog?
This will be the last year the Bills sweep the Patriots because it's really in year 3 of Drake May. It's really going to be a difference maker. So I'm going to take a loss for the Patriots.
I'm a loss there too. Baltimore Ravens at the Baltimore Ravens.
I have this as a loss.
Dog?
Poison Ivy, Poison Oak. As you know, I'm not big on either of these teams. I'm going to say a tie.
All right.
What do you got, Mike?
my math is going to be all messed up. I got a loss against the Ravens. All right, last one at the New York Jets.
And we still have two more. We have two more. Still.
Oh, the Miami Dolphins is a TBD.
So at the Jets. I don't know. I feel like the Patriots sweep it, so they'll beat the Jets.
Dog?
I think they let one slip away in the Meadowlands. Loss.
Okay, I got a win there. And then lastly, Miami Dolphins at home.
Yeah.
To be determined. I don't know what they're waiting for. Probably.
They're going to flex it somewhere. So.
Yeah.
And
I don't know.
Fishing or whatever. Yeah, they're waiting. Yeah. It could either be a Saturday or a Sunday. So, yeah.
Yeah. So, and this game may not count for either team. So, I'll take a win for the Patriots.
Dog?
I already said win because I've got them losing to Miami, and then I've got them beating Miami, and then next year in 2026, I've got the Dolphins basically never beating the Patriots again in the Drake May era for a long, long time.
1, 2, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that I knew that tie was going to mess me up.
Doing your math.
1, 2, 3, 4, almost done. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11.
Good thing we got a math teacher doing this.
So, Charlie, you and I have the Pats at 11 and 6, 17 games, right? 11 and 6.
That doesn't sound good. Yes.
Dog has them at 8, 8 and 1.
I think
the
Dog
epitome of 500.
Dog is better than we are with that choice because 11, I don't know. I mean, I'm just a homer apparently. Yeah, I'm a homer because 11 wins seems like way too much.
I did this with my oldest son last night, and you talk about a homer, and he had him at 13 wins. And I said, okay, now I just picked it. Like for instance, he had them beating the Steelers, and I said, okay, Pittsburgh radio is doing this exact exercise. What are they going to say? And they're going to say, well, I guess they're going to say Pittsburgh's going to win, right? And they're listing all the reasons why Pittsburgh's going to win. He says, well, Drake May's in his second year, Vrabel, we don't know. I mean, he's just going to go all. The Patriots still have a lot of deficiencies. But at least they've kind of created a little bit of excitement moving in more than we've had in the past couple of years.
Right. No, I agree with that. And I think, and the schedule isn't too bad. I mean, it's a schedule where they can actually win more games than they lose. Hopefully. I mean, Dog, you got them at 500. I love it. So, but you know what? If Dog's right, I would take 8 wins. 8 wins for Patriots. That's great. That's significant improvement from the past couple of seasons. I would take 8 wins.
The schedule's not too bad. Is very generous. This is as cakewalk of a schedule that they could probably have. There's not many teams that have an easier schedule based on last year's winning percentage. And I think if they can't scrape by with 8 wins out of this schedule, then there's a problem. There's actually a problem with this schedule. So I don't know. All right. I think that's about it for us today. I want to mention again, we're going to go deep with the Celtics on overtime on Wednesday, or most likely Wednesday. We didn't set our schedule yet, but most likely Wednesday. We're going to talk about the Tatum injury. We're going to talk about, the impact of that on the current series with New York and the future series down the road next year, which is obviously going to play out. How Tatum reacted to the injury. We'll get into all that stuff. And then next week, we're going to go deep WNBA. We're going to study up on and see if we can catch up to Dog on his WNBA knowledge.
Sounds good. All right. Don't forget to follow us, Mike and the Hoss, on X, Instagram, what I'm missing here, TikTok, and of course, Facebook. So thanks for watching, guys. And I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your beautiful weekend.
All right. Have a great week, everybody.